Recently I made a video talking about the possibility of Mario Kart DLC coming this year as part of the Mario Explosion. That video was all about the possibility of whether or not it would happen, but in the comments a lot of you guys wanted to see me talk about what I think would or should come. So without wasting any time, I mocked up 12 cups, ignore the Squid and Moon Cup because I actually talked about those in that last video I just mentioned, each with 4 of their own tracks, and we're gonna get into that in this video. I organized the cups in a specific way. Basically, the first track in every cup is a retro track, meaning it's from a past Mario Kart game. You can see the game of origin in the little text box in the top left. The second track in every cup is based on a previous Mario title. Whether it's a theme, stage, or level, it's from some sort of past Mario game. The third track in every cup is from a previous Nintendo title, and the fourth track in every cup I'm tentatively calling the Thomas Surprise. It's basically just a random track, which is actually most of what the Mario Kart tracks are. Like, if you look at Mario Kart 8, like, Electrodome isn't based on anything else, it's just its own thing. So I really just got as creative as possible for these 4th tracks. With that out of the way, we've got a lot of ground to cover and not that much time, so let's just jump right into it. The first cup, we have the Acorn Cup, and the retro track for this would be Maka Woohoo. Maka Woohoo is a sectional track, meaning that no 3 of the laps are the same, and I always love those types of tracks, and also it's on Woohoo Island, which is just cool. The Mario-themed course in this cup is Honey Hive Galaxy from Mario Galaxy. The Nintendo-themed course is Arowana Mall from Splatoon, and for the random course, I went with Goomba Circuit. We've gotten a ton of different circuits from Mario Kart just as a whole. Daisy Circuit, Peach Circuit, Mario Circuit, Luigi Circuit, Yoshi Circuit, but I don't think we've ever gotten like a villain circuit, so to speak. Bowser Circuit just sounds weird, so Goomba Circuit it is. It would be pretty cool to see, you know, the sidelines filled with like Bowser's minions instead of just, you know, the average Toad. Moving on, we got the Cherry Cup. The retro course for this one is Wii's Coconut Mall, which is one of the best courses I think in Mario Kart history. For the Mario track, we got Pinna Park from Mario Sunshine, and for the Nintendo themed track, we got PNF 404, which is the planet from Pikmin. Driving through the vast locales in Pikmin as a very small, like, downsized cart would be really, really cool. And then for the random course, I went with something called Canvas Circuit. Think kind of Music Park, but instead of driving on pianos and a musically themed course, it's very art themed, so you're driving across a canvas with maybe spilled paint as hazards, various paint brushes, and that sort of thing. If Nintendo wanted to get really creative, every cart could kind of leave behind a trail of paint. It wouldn't have any effect on the gameplay, but it would be pretty cool just visually. They did a very similar thing on Electrodome, where as you drove along that course, it would kind of, I don't really know what to call it. You'll just see on the screen right now. Moving on to the Question Block Cup, we have Sunset Wilds as the retro course. This is probably the most unknown retro course in this video, because I believe it was only in Super Circuit, which is one of the most, or probably is the most unknown Mario Kart game. Basically, this course is pretty standard in terms of layout. The only reason I like it is because it takes place during a sunset, and each lap the sun, you know, gets lower, and I just think that's a really cool aesthetic that should be brought back into a Mario Kart like 8 graphic style map. For the Mario course, I said Forest Maze from Super Mario RPG, and I'd like to drive through Palutena's Temple from Kid Icarus Uprising as the Nintendo themed stage. For the random stage, I went with something called Flower Gardens. The background you see there is from one of the Mario Golf games, I forget, and there are a ton of different, you know, garden stages. Peach Gardens comes to mind first, but I'd really love to see Nintendo kind of implement the Mario flowers, because there's actually a lot of different flowers in Mario. There's fire flowers, ice flowers, boomerang flowers, but for some reason they're never really, you know, seen all together, and I think that would be kind of cool to get a stage based on that gimmick. Moving on to the Boomerang Flower Cup, we have DK Mountain, which is just one of the most well-respected, I think, courses in Mario Kart history. Moving on, we have the Fruity Factory level from Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. If you've ever played this level, it's really unique because you can see the little snowmads in the background, you know, cutting up the fruit and packaging it, and it's a really cool aesthetic. Think of kind of like a Toad's Factory sort of level, except instead of being, well, you know, a industrial factory, it would kind of be like a fruit package processing plant that is all taking place in a Donkey Kong forest. Moving on, we have the Galar Tour, which would be heavily inspired by the wild area from Pokemon Sword and Shield, and the random level is Luigi's Casino. I'd love to see a casino level in Mario Kart. I think that would be sick, and I just chose Luigi's Casino because of the casino minigames in New Super Mario Bros. DS. I always spent way too much time on those when I had my DS, and yeah, I mean, just driving through that, like, it would be sick. Moving on to the Penguin Cup, and the first course here is Daisy Cruiser. Originally on Double Dash, Daisy Cruiser is a pretty standard drive through a cruise ship. However, for some reason, like, I have no idea why, I was infatuated with the idea of driving through this course at night. So you can see my excellent Photoshop skills there as I just replaced the sky with, you know, a night sky. Moving on to the Mario themed level, we got Searchlight Sneak from Super Mario 3D World. The overall aesthetic of this level, I'm going to be honest, is pretty generic. It's your typical castle. However, the searchlights are really cool and present a kind of Metal Gear Solid-esque gimmick in that game. Obviously, you wouldn't be able to use them to the same effect in Mario Kart, but you try to stay out of the searchlights in Mario 3D World, they could definitely implement that gimmick somehow and make it interesting in Mario Kart. Next up, we got the Monastery from Fire Emblem. I literally know nothing about this, never played the series, I just think it looks like a cool aesthetic. And it worked with the next course I wanted to talk about, which is Mushroom U. No, this isn't a forgotten Wii U game. This is actually like a university. I think it would be a really cool thing to drive through, like a university, a college, or just any sort of school thing set in the Mushroom Kingdom, because we don't really see that ever, and I just think it would be cool. Similar to how Sunshine Airport took a kind of boring locale in the airport, and, you know, made it into an awesome track, I think they could do the same thing with a college aesthetic. Moving on to the Propeller Cup, we have Maple Tree Way as the retro course. Next up, we have Minecart Carnage. That's the name of the first ever level that included minecarts in the Donkey Kong Country games. I know instinctively you guys are probably thinking, oh, that'll just be a ripoff of Wario's Gold Mine, but whereas Wario's Gold Mine was pretty effective in terms of, you know, clearing out the minecarts and actually, like, using them as obstacles, Minecart Carnage has broken tracks. Like, that's pretty much the gimmick of the level, and that was not something explored at all in Wario's Gold Mine, so it definitely would be cool. One of the coolest parts of Splatoon 2 was the whole Grizzco thing, and although we didn't really get much story surrounding them, what we did get was really ominous, and I would like to see it somewhat explored in a track. Like, I just want to spend more time in that universe. And last but not least, World 5 of Super Mario 3D World had a pretty big focus on ant hills. I don't exactly know why, but driving through an ant hill in Mario Kart I think would be pretty sick, especially with these sort of, you know, ant-themed enemies trying to knock you off the track. Moving on to the Shell Cup, we have Koopa Cape. Once again, another Mario Kart Wii track that was in Mario Kart 7. I mean, this one's just a blast. Like, what else can I say about this track that hasn't been said already? Moving right on to the Mario track, I want to look at Koopa's Tycoon Town from Mario Party 8. I'd love to drive through it in a Mario Kart track. Next up, we have Nebula Belt from Kirby's Air Ride. I think it would be overall a sick inclusion to add something from Kirby's Air Ride, because I think that game is incredibly underappreciated, and Nebula's Belt is just like a sick kind of aesthetic. It kind of reminds me of the Super Smash Bros. Melee's menus, which is understandable because I think both games were directed by Sakurai. And last but not least, I have Pirate Park. I just want to see more sort of pirate aesthetic in Mario. Moving right along to the Mini Mushroom Cup, we have Mushroom Gorge, once again a phenomenal track. Moving on to Twilight Town from Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door, I just think that aesthetic, once again, I think it would be really cool. If they wanted to go above and beyond with this level, they could kind of combine it with the gimmick from Super Mario Bros. U, I think it was, where they had that sort of Van Gogh style level, because these do incorporate like similar styles. Racing through like a Van Gogh painting, I think that would be so cool. Next up, we have Sanderson's house, which is the house from Chibi Robo. And last but not least, I want a full-on like Great Barrier Reef style like course. We've raced underwater in the past, obviously, but never on like a full-on coral reef, I don't think, and that would just be so sick. And I ended up settling on Waluigi because of this brand, which is actually, you know, seen in the background of some Mario Kart courses. So yeah, I mean, a bit of working the lore in there, I guess. Next up, we got the Cape Feather, and I wanted to go with DK's Jungle Parkway for this one. This next one would be really cool if implemented. I don't know if they'd do it though. Shadow Play Alley, Fendrana Drifts, or however you pronounce that. I really haven't played much Metroid Prime at all, but it's a really neat aesthetic, and the music to that like location in the game is phenomenal. And last but not least, Peach and Daisy always have this royal patisserie, which has been in the background of a bunch of different Mario Kart courses, and I figured like might as well just give Daisy's royal patisserie its entire course. Moving on to the P-Wing power-up, we have Moonview Highway as the retro course. Moving on, we have Corona Mountain. Oh, come on! That's not even the virus! Moving on to the Nintendo theme track, we have ARMS Laboratory. I mean, if they're getting a character in Smash, why not put the ARMS series in Mario Kart? And weaving in and out of these giant test tube looking things would be really neat. Next up, we have the Bank of Kamek. I'd love to get some sort of new Super Mario Bros. 2 inspiration up in here with a ton of coins, just driving on coins. I think that would be sick, and I gave the bank to Kamek because, I don't know, I've always really liked Kamek, and I feel like they are very underappreciated in mainline Mario. They're pretty much exclusively relegated to Yoshi. I don't know, I feel like they should be the next playable racer in Mario Kart. Moving on to the final two cups, we have the Pow Block Cup. Toad's Factory is here as the retro course. I mean, what can you say about Toad's Factory that hasn't already been said? It's a phenomenal course and I'd love to see it in HD. Following that, we have Shooting Star Summit from the original Paper Mario. I mean, just look at that. That would be so sick. We pretty much exclusively get Rainbow Road courses when it comes to, you know, doing anything with that sort of astral theme. So you've probably noticed that, and you'll continue to notice it throughout this video. I added in a bunch of sort of like space sort of courses that aren't exclusively Rainbow Road because I'd really like to see that in the game. Next up, we got Corneria. Specifically, I'd love to see it if we could race through like the Corneria planet in Star Fox Zero. I really liked what they did with Corneria in that game, just in terms of like graphics, so I'd love to see some sort of like inspiration taken from that if Corneria does get made into a Mario Kart track. And for the random course on this one, I chose Thunder Way. Cloudtop Cruise, I'm gonna be honest, is not my favorite course in Mario Kart 8, but the section where you race inside a thundercloud is so sick, and I'd love to see that expanded to an entire course. Last but certainly not least, I saved the best for last. I think all four of these courses would be phenomenal and are insanely good ideas. First up, Waluigi's Pinball. What is highly regarded as one of the best tracks in the entire Mario Kart franchise. Next up, for the Mario course, Robot Reactor, aka Bowser Jr.'s Robot Reactor, aka Mega Leg Boss from Super Mario Galaxy. I mean, in that game, you walk up Mega Leg's like legs to, you know, end up defeating the boss. If you could drive on this giant robot, like how sick would that be? Especially with Mario Kart 8's anti-gravity mechanic, like, man, this could be really cool. Speaking of anti-gravity, the Distortion World from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, holy crap, if this was eventually somehow put into Mario Kart with the anti-gravity mechanic intact, this could be one hell of a course. Last but not least, this is probably my favorite idea I've had the entire time. This course is called the Rexa Belt. Now, unless you're an insane Mario Kart fan, you might not even know what Rexa is. Rexa is actually an acronym which stands for the Rainbow Exploration Agency, and it's basically just an excuse for Toads to be in space. It's really cool. Mario Kart 8's original Rainbow Road, because there ended up being 3 in that game, but the original Rainbow Road actually somewhat took place on a space station, which was an interesting design choice. A lot of people didn't like it because it got rid of that magical Rainbow Road kind of feel, but I think the idea of exploring a space station is so sick. Especially with anti-gravity. Imagine driving on a satellite and then maybe going out and tricking off a bunch of asteroids just to make it to a larger space station. That would be so cool, and the Rexa Belt, which is basically the Mario equivalent of NASA, or at least the closest thing they have, would be the greatest way to do that. Plus, Astronaut Toad is best Toad. If you guys enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments below, and seriously, the possibilities here are endless. So once again, just, you know, drop a comment if you guys want to suggest what you want to see. Maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video. I don't know. Subscribe to the channel if you made it this far and you're enjoying the content. Press the like button, obviously, all that fun stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Thomas from the Switch Stop signing off. Peace.